Looks very futuristic.
Good apparatus.
Does that come with a job?
I wish.
Looks like you're smoking ladies' perfume over there.
What's in
Smoking
there?
gas.
That stuff?
That was a good one.
I'm gonna move this over here though.
What is that?
It's an ISO dish.
Ooh. Wow, that's some strong stuff.
You got a napkin?
Hey, can we have some paper towels and kitchen support here?
Instantly fucking
Honestly, it's this house. For some reason, shit spills all over the place in this fucking
Can you
house.
guys send the maid over, please? Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
We need some bounty, dude.
Oh.
Clean up by one. Clean up
it's already
by
evaporated
one.
at this
Hold
point.
on, it's cranberry. Hold on.
Clean up by one.
I've got another bottle for you.
Hey, this brings me back to the Shaw's days where we used to purposely break shit because my cousin was in maintenance. We're like, clean up by one, clean up by one.
Wow, I got instantly
20 minutes later, clean about 10.
What's that little light thing there?
So that's my temperature reader. So that's a UV.
Really? Oh, it's an infrared temperature sensor? Are you going by Celsius or Fahrenheit? On
Fahrenheit.
That
We're in America,
What's the
sir.
temperature have to be at optimal?
Between like 480 and 500 for me.
That high, huh?
Man, this guy knows a lot about that.
Dude, I'm fucking lost here, dude. I feel I'm in science class,
He's
dude.
got this thing
Fucking
from like
lost,
Star
dude.
Trek.
I gotta fucking flip this over. I don't know what the hell's going
I'm
on.
already wrecked looking at it.
Yeah, dude.
Don't worry, we'll get you set up on one.
Dude, I have one of those. I'm gonna have a sugar cube.
You got fucking Rob.
Sugar cube and a little peppercorn, bring you back to life.
You got Rob launching the shuttle. What's going on over here?
Back to Earth here.
You gotta quit. You gotta quit crying about being high. You're on a fucking weed show.
Oh, right.
I think you knew what you signed up for at this point.
Yeah, right.
Hey,
Jesus
Rick,
Christ.
I think it's time for another drink.
All right. I got you. Cheers.
Somebody hook Rick up with a drink.
Hey, on that one, let's get this baby rolling because you guys got me all busted up in science class right now.
Here we go.
I'm lost.
Gotta have a cigarette.
Yeah. But neon. Out the mud. Before I get it out the mud, I stay on top of my fitness and hit the shower, clean it up, and then get back to the business. I don't care about who did it, I ain't worried who didn't. I head directly to the back, so I'll be there in a minute. I got expensive taste, the rollie got a different face for surely. I be in them places, they won't let you pass the gate. Posted up, sipping $1,000 scotches with the rock in it. Look.
I'm gonna jump in here. Episode 3, we got Tim Spatola, the what are you, concentrate manager over there?
Yeah, director of extraction.
Director of extraction.
Means the guy that works like 80 hours a week.
So you don't have any
Not
kids?
at
No, not yet. Getting married in August.
You are?
Getting married in August, but no sign of immediate kids right now. We want to be able to,
Well, yeah.
get our lives established and,
all
get
now.
out of here. You know?
And you're going to stand by your title,
yeah.
Director of Extraction. You can pull it out.
Director of extraction.
Nice.
Director of extraction. How long you been working at Suncrafted, and what got you into the business? How long you been doing it prior?
So I've been at Suncrafted for almost 2 years now. April will be 2 years. I've been in the legal market since 2019. Right when I turned 21, pretty much, I was like starting to apply to places. Started off at one spot as a trimmer. Was doing that for like almost 8 months, and then I worked my way up to be a lead in that room, and then was kind of, trying to figure out my role for the most part, and then got an opportunity to move into the extraction lab. And prior to working into the market at all, I was just doing my own thing. Like I was growing, when I was in high school, I was growing in my basement in the freaking closet and stuff like that. And then, started getting into extracts. My mom actually started going through chemo for a second time, in radiation. And I'm sorry, she did not go through chemo a second time. She opted out of chemo the second time because the first time that she had chemo back when I was like 7 years old, obviously I didn't know what was going on, but little did I know she was actually using cannabis back then before she was able to legally. Her doctor actually, even back in 2005, was like, yeah, like I would recommend that you use cannabis. I obviously can't, as a doctor, write you a prescription for that. But if you can go find someone that's got some weed, I would go recommend that you go roll up a joint and smoke it. It's basically what a doctor said to her in 2005 with the nausea, yeah, like exactly. Yeah, the chemo was crazy, dude. Like, I mean, I remember I was 7 years old. And I remember like what my mom looked like going through that. Like, she had stage 4 breast cancer, and she was like, they basically had like written her off, and she pulled through, and she was cancer free. And then back in 2017, we were living down south. They moved out. We lived in Massachusetts our whole life. They moved down south to get out of this weather. I went to college down there and stuff like that. But
what'd you say, North Carolina?
Yeah, North Carolina.
That's where I was born. I was born in Fayetteville.
Oh no shit, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, she got re-diagnosed again. And they found it in her lymph nodes, which they were worried about it metastasizing and all that awful shit. So they wanted her to go through a second round of chemo and all that, and she basically said, no, chemo almost killed me. I'd rather deal with radiation and do my own thing. And basically she kind of looked to me at that point, and, you know, obviously I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist or anything like that. I'm just a fucking weed guy. But, you know, it helped her, and she was like, you know, if there's anything that you can, you know, do, like if there's anything you can make, anything like that. So obviously I started going down the rabbit hole, doing topicals, RSO, any sort of like form of concentration that I could do. Flower rosin, you know, all the above, like to, you know, for what I had access to, at least to work on, and ended up making her like a super strong topical that was like almost like 1-to-1, like a coconut oil and like RSO mixture. And she was putting that on like in the areas that she was getting the radiation like isolated on. And she literally said that it was almost like a numbing cream. Like she would put it on, like the pain, like the sharpness would go away when she'd put it on. So that was huge for me.
How old were you when you started doing that?
18.
Okay.
Yeah.
Out of high school, before college?
Yeah. Oh, I was in college. Yeah, I was going to college. You know, went to school for business. Just got a 2-year degree because I knew I wanted to get involved in cannabis. Like, and that didn't exist down there.
Yeah,
so
they didn't have any classes yet.
No, and they still don't. Like, they're still super far behind. Like, you know, it could go into a rabbit hole about the hemp loophole and everything that's going on down there as far as that goes. But yeah, they're still out there. I know I just saw recently that they're like polling, I think it's like 78% of residents are in favor of medical cannabis. And it's like, how could you not be? It's like, I've never understood like anyone that could argue against medical cannabis. It's like, you're going to look me in the eye and say, I know nothing about you as a person, but I feel this way about this plant, and I don't think you should use this plant. And it's like, why? It's like, well, because I heard it's bad. And it's like, so I can't choose to do something with my body, with something that's out of the ground because you feel a certain way about it. It's like, it just makes no sense. Like, I've never heard any logical argument against medical cannabis. None. Like, name one thing that would be a logical point to say, no, this is why you can't have medical cannabis. Like, okay, recreational, I understand why some people would say, I don't want my son to be able to walk into a store and buy marijuana. And it's like, okay, well, he could just go buy it from a drug dealer if he really wanted to get weed. Like, you're not stopping him. And it's like, that's the whole thing with like these states that are still illegal. It's like, you think that, I don't know what they think that they're doing by still being illegal. You're just missing out on taxes. You're making out on state revenue that you could be making, and you're just making people miserable. Yeah, and you're incarcerating people for no reason. You're you know what I mean? It's just like, you have people that are in jail for a completely nonviolent crime. Like, you have people that are in jail for cannabis, just possession.
Right.
It's insane.
And these are the people.
Let me tell you what, weed's been available since I can remember. I mean,
that's going back.
It's, you know, you get a bag anywhere. It's
the
same as it is now.
Back.
No, and
now it's even more. But I'm just
and again, and the thing that drives me up a wall, and my father especially, because he's living in this state where it's happening, is, you know, you can't have medical cannabis, you can't have recreational cannabis. If you have weed, you're going to prison. Well, it's decriminalized up to an ounce, but if you have more than an ounce of weed, you're going to jail. But you can go into a smoke shop and buy Delta 9 or THCA hemp flower, which is flower.
In a smoke shop?
In a smoke shop. They're selling weed. They're selling they're selling cookies that are 100 milligrams of Delta 9 because the cookie weighs 40 grams, and by weight, 0.3% of that cookie can be pure Delta 9. Which would be equivalent to like 3,000 milligrams or something like that.
That's the loophole, how they do it.
Yeah, so it's like, so I can have 3,000 milligrams of Delta 9 in this cookie and ship it all around the country because it came from hemp and it's less than 0.3 by weight. And that's the mode that they are just rocking with. And like you see it anywhere, even in this state.
Yeah, anywhere.
You can go to a gas station and buy 5 milligram Delta 9 sodas now. You go to a bar.
We just had a guy on the show doing that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like game is game. Like if you can get it, then get it. But like at the same time, it's like I understand.
What's the problem with Delta 9?
I don't think it's necessarily the problem I guess would just be like the regulation. Well, it's just like there's no regulation on it. Like the scrutiny that we have from a licensed facility to go through testing and all the regulations that we have.
Unregulated.
It's super unregulated.
But
it can
if
be
you're trying to get the patient something for cheap and not.
Well, yeah, it's the way to look at it like that, where it's like I don't want to think that just because we work at a licensed facility and we've gone through all this, it's like no, this is the only form of medicine. Like I'm not like. I will say that specifically with Delta 8 and all these other cannabinoids that are like isomers or whatever you want to call it, that are other cannabinoids that they're just now figuring out, and also not only figuring out but finding that exist in super small amounts of normal cannabis, and then they're isolating those cannabinoids and you're able to consume them as an isolate that normally wouldn't be present in that amount of concentration. Like, I don't really know. Like, obviously you could say the same thing about Delta 9, like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Like, who knows, like, if you're smoking pure concentrate, like, what are the effects going to be of pure Delta 9? And obviously, personally, I've had no adverse effects, but, like, obviously it exists. Like, people talk about, like, schizophrenia being triggered. If you have, like, if you're predisposition to having a schizophrenic break and then you smoke cannabis, you could be triggered to having a psychosis episode. But did cannabis cause that, or were you already predisposed and we're going to have it anyways? Like, that's what they're kind of finding. But, like, arguably, like, with the hemp stuff, back to that is, the main thing for me is that, like, you don't know what's in it. Like you can get, like, there's obviously legal hemp companies and there's legit hemp companies. Like, I'm not discrediting all hemp that's on the market, but I've personally seen sketchy packaging in these smoke shops that's like, it tells you nothing about where it was made, how it was made, what's in it, and it's like there's no testing. Like, did you spray shit on it? Did you use Eagle 20? Like, is this poison? Like, there's nothing stopping anyone from poisoning you at that aspect either.
But I don't really think you got too much to worry about.
No, obviously,
the politicians, they're gonna put a kibosh to that. Like,
they already are. Yeah,
they're not getting the same taxes that they're getting from buying from a legal facility. You know what I mean? So that'll be over. Like, it's only a matter of time.
It is, yeah. It's a window of opportunity with something like that. Like, I wouldn't be dropping everything and moving to a state to start a THCA hemp company. But, people are doing it, and it's one of those, like, weird things where it's like, like I said, you can legally ship it if it's under a certain weight of Delta 9 and all that shit, but it has to be from hemp.
Right.
So it's like you look at like a legal company like us, it's like, all right, we're producing flower and it's less than Delta 9. Like, can I ship it across the country? It's like, no, because you're a cannabis producer. It's like,
you guys should be making them too.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If we got a hemp,
making them, but they have
if
to
you got a hemp,
sell it through the license.
Yeah, you'd have to be a licensed hemp producer
at an astronomical amount.
You'd have to get licensed with MDAR.
What's the tax on that?
If you add all the cannabis tax plus the local fee, the
a lot.
impact fee, and they're getting like,
it's like almost 40%. It's really high. It's over 30%, I'd say.
What's the profit ratio though on that stuff?
Plus the sales tax.
I mean, you still make, like, that's why I think you see these people trying to make a 100% profit or 100% markup rather on their products, because they're getting taxed so heavily. And it's like why you see them leaning into wholesale, because the wholesalers don't get taxed like you do at retail. Like, retailers are the ones that are really getting screwed. So like the wholesalers don't have the same taxes. So like that's why you see a lot of companies like dumping product for a lot cheaper through wholesale, just because the taxes end up being better. And it's like, you could be doubling your money going through retail, but it's like, well, not really. In the end of the day, it's like you might as well sell it for a lower margin on the books, but then you end up not, you end up making out pretty much the same in the end.
Right.
More or less.
Right. Yeah, but at least they got rid of the 280E on the state level, and when you file your state tax returns in Mass. Like,
when did that happen?
That happened a little while ago.
Did it?
Yeah, Massachusetts is one of the states that on the state, when you file your state returns, when you file your federal, you still have to apply by the 280E.
Okay, that's what I thought, because trust me.
So like on the state level, when you file them, you can do it. They put a kibosh to that.
Wow.
In Mass. But when you fill out, the part that's for feds, they don't. They're still going with the 280E.
I'm gonna call Trump. He'll figure it out.
yeah. Trump actually. The last guys on the show, we actually had a couple inmates, and the guy selling the Freedom Soda, a couple inmates called in, and one of the guy's co-defendants Trump actually pardoned the guy.
No shit.
That
Yeah,
was a great
Ooh, that
show.
tor- that torch
you
is
didn't hear
sick.
nothing about it.
Laser.
Oh, here we go, round 2.
Hey, I wish I had that thing when I was playing hockey. I could bend my
I was
blade in
talking
the
too
middle
much
of the
on the
game.
first one. I barely even
Yeah.
got a dab ready on the first one. I was
Yeah, you
like,
better take down another hit. You're a long-winded motherfucker, dude.
You know what's funny is all the people.
Like a half-hour
hey, yeah,
straight.
like dabs.
That's
You
Yeah.
get a fucking word in.
Well,
That's
hey
some
man.
serious action right there.
You know what's crazy? All the people that had issues with the medical marijuana, right? They're the ones you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this, but yet they're the ones taking Percocets and oxys when they got a back problem or whatever it is. It's like that's even worse.
Well, it's funny. It's like the only argument I've ever heard for medical cannabis is, well, Jesus says this. It's like, oh, okay, like God wouldn't want me to. Like, it's like, no. First of all, if you're going to go that route, I think you're wrong. I think, you're reading into it the wrong way. But that's the only, living in the South, that was the only argument that I ever heard was, well, Jesus says that you can't do drugs. It's like, no, we're not. You're reading into it wrong, dude. Like, that's not what it is at all.
Jesus said a lot of other things that people are still doing.
Man, the garden for all to use.
So the lower the temperature, the purer it is that it melts at?
I wouldn't say it's like a pure science like that, but like for like a lot of the extracts I found, rosin in general seems to want to be dabbed at a lower temperature compared to like a hydrocarbon. Hydrocarbon I've seen likes to be dabbed a little warmer for the most part. Like if I'm hitting
Hydrocarbon, what are you saying the chemical makeup is?
it's just like any sort of extract that's been made with a solvent like butane or propane or
The
pentane.
solvent that you
yeah.
guys do not use, I'm sure.
Yeah, we are solventless where we're at. So just ice, water, heat, and pressure.
So you're doing it the old school way.
Yeah, and old school with a new school twist,
Cool.
Yeah, they wash it. The new school's the fucking pressing, right?
Yeah, utilizing the fresh frozen bud instead of the dry cured bud, and then obviously washing it and pressing it with the different bags and all that, refining it like that, separating out the different resin, everything out of the best, sized resin heads, which does vary. Because, we've had a few people confused, like when we release a tier 1 and it's a 90 micron, and then the next week we release a tier 1, it's a 73 micron, they're kind of getting confused. They're like, oh, like, what's the difference? And then we explain to them, like, we're in greenhouses, we have the sun, so different genetics, express themselves differently, different size resin heads, like more large heads for more ripe heads. Like we have some tier 1 that's like we're pulling like 120 micron and we're getting, fully developed resin heads. And it's like, you don't really see that indoor. I know it exists indoor. Like my old spot that I was at, we pulled resin in a 160 micron bag.
So you're going into microns, which is, if everybody wants to know, the atmospheric is 14.2 pounds per square inch. But what they're going into is a vacuum. So like 165 microns, that's almost equivalent to being in space.
I think
the size of the screen.
yeah, you're thinking of I think you're thinking of Tor as in vacuum, yeah, like M-Bar and Tor and all that. No, it's all good. Yeah, so
Yeah, that's why.
Ron got ahead of himself.
Yeah.
No, it's all good.
On a space shuttle.
That's why you got a D in science, dude.
no, it's all good.
No, you're really talking about the size of the holes on the screen, right?
Yeah, so it's talking about so when we're washing the product, like you get the ice and the water all together in the bud, and the vortex of that's pulling the resin off of that bud, and then you filter it through the different micron bags, and obviously your bigger micron, like the larger size pores, in the beginning you're catching contaminant, you're catching flour and other particles that don't want to be in there, and then you get to a certain point of the prime range where you've gotten all the contaminant out, and now you're just into pure resin.
The ripe heads.
Yeah, exactly, the most ripe heads. So like obviously, like I said before, it kind of varies on strain to strain, but for the most part, where we're at, we see most of our resin kind of like in the, I'd say 75 to 85 micron size. I mean, upwards to like 100 microns. So like if we pull a 90 micron, we definitely get some premium resin, but I felt like we were selling ourselves a little short when we were pulling exclusively 90 micron. So once we shifted to, my bad.
No, you're good.
Once we shifted to,
I like the process.
yeah, once we shifted away from exclusively pulling 90, and we were like, let's see what strains perform better, like pulling 73. Like our Mountaintop Mint, that won Nikan last year.
Yeah, that shit was fire. I
We
made a
won.
few purchases.
Yeah, we won with the 45, like a full spectrum pull on that, like 45 to 159, and we were stoked on that. But then we were kind of thinking like, all right, can we make it any better? Like, because we tried pulling a 90 micron in the beginning, and we weren't getting like any resin in it. We were like, this is weird. And then was all falling in the 45 because we weren't pulling a 73 at that point. And
So it was finer.
yeah, like it was
tighter
more of like a
heads.
60 micron, I'd say, like overall is what we were kind of seeing. So like pulling a 73, we weren't even fine. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was probably more like a 70 or 75 to 80 micron head because we weren't finding anything in the 90 micron. We were getting a ton in the 45, and we were thinking this whole time, like, you know, can we clean it up a little more than just pulling a full spec? And we ended up finding, like, yeah, pulling a 73 is a prime micron size for the mountaintop mint.
That's the honey spot.
At least for that strain specifically. Like, we have pulled, like I said, we pulled some Romulan where we were getting heads in the 120 micron range. So, like, you know, if we had,
Elijah.
oh yeah, and then with that one, you know, for commercial purposes, we shifted away from pulling like, you know, 8 different screens, and we've isolated like the top 3 screens that we try to isolate from,
Yep.
or 4, I should say. The 2 of them get mixed together for the food grade, but yeah, we have like our tier 1 is like our 73 or our 90 micron, and then our tier 2 is our full spec. So like we only pull the 90 or the 73 on the first couple washes. The rest of them get mixed in with the 45U. So really, if you're getting our 45U,
It's all broken.
it's all
heads.
still, yeah, it's still, well, again, like there's still some.
Do you lose flavor with the broken heads on the hash? Like, is it less terps or?
It's honestly, it's one of those weird things, and I feel like, you know, we're still kind of figuring out with testing and all that right now, but I've seen higher terp levels in the 45 micron, in the food grade micron range, even like the true full spec, like the true food grade. Like I've seen test results. Oh, I'm sorry. I've seen test results that don't really add up, you know?
Do you guys sell a pen, all these different strains of rosin you have a pen for each one?
Yeah.
Just rechargeable, disposable?
Yep, we have disposables. We have the 510s, which you can put onto a battery.
What's your average price of a pen?
I think our disposables are like 35 to 40, depending. And then we have like bulk if you
How
get
long
more
do
than
they
one.
last?
Depends, like the type
Well,
of
I wanna
person
get
that
it a
you
lot,
are.
but-
I smoke like a half gram of oil to a gram of oil like a day as it is. So
Yes.
for me, like if I have a pen on the go, I'm just ripping it whenever I'm not ripping hash. So even then, I've gone through half gram in a day or two, but that's like a real hash smoker smoking it all
I'd be
day.
wrecked.
That's a safety
Yeah.
net. That's the
Yeah,
bridge.
like I just saw like this Ghost Dog rosin just dropped. Like, you know, we had a limited drop of it. Well, kind of. Didn't think it was that limited. We dropped like 100 grams and then like a dozen eighths on Friday. I was out of town. I was in Seattle. Came back on Monday and I'm like, hey, let me get a Ghost Dog. Like, oh, we don't have any. What?
That stuff tasted pretty good.
It's really nice and the quality of it's insane. Like
Some old school genetics. What's
It-
that? Chem dog in there?
Chem Dog and Ghost OG, I believe. But yeah, it's some really, really good resin producer. Like super, super good. Like if you like gassy, like old school type terps. Yeah, again, it's not the typical candy that everyone's after right now, but you know, we do cater to those people as well. But yeah, you've seen like the last thing that we just won, High Times. We placed 3rd in High Times for our biodiesel.
That's big. How many entries?
We
how many
we
entries are in
had
that?
there was, I believe, 10.
10 entries?
It was
in
10,
there?
yeah, it was 10 licensed facilities. We came in 3rd for the biodiesel, which honestly, after like looking at the entries, it was kind of like, it was exactly, I was personally thinking like we were probably gonna get 2nd or 3rd.
Yeah.
Because Harbor House, they are one of our main, like, I don't even want to call them competitors, but they're definitely one of the other producers in the state that when I look to like a standard, like of like, all right, how are we doing? Like I look to them as like, you know, are we meeting that model? Are we exceeding that model? Like, they're definitely a good gauge as far as a hash producer goes. So definitely look to them and like what they're doing. And when I saw their entry, I was like, all right, that's valid.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna sit here and say like, yeah, it's like, you know, we make amazing rosin in this state, like definitely top 3. Like, and not to say that some of our hash isn't the best either, but like, you know, when I look at an entry of 10 entries and I see, you know, some of the flavors that I saw, like I saw Treeworks, Chem S1, and I'm like, all right, that's a competitor for sure. Treeworks is another one too. Like I saw their name on there and I was like, all right, Treeworks is valid. Like they're going to be a competitor. Saw Harbor House, I'm like, they're going to be valid. Saw their entry, I'm like, valid.
So they came in 1 and 2?
They came in for 1 and then Treeworks came in for 2nd. We came in for 3rd for our bio, but the whole time, like we were looking at, you know, Harbor House entered grape cream cake. I'm like, all right, you know, fruity terps, all that, candy terps. That's probably what the public generally would like.
Right.
And
right.
we were thinking that, like, when I saw the entries, I'm like, all right, they're going to probably vote for that because it was a public vote. Like, you could have gone out and bought an entry at any of the retailers that were selling them. You could buy, you know, whichever one you wanted, like concentrate, flour, edibles, all that. And, yeah, I was looking at the entries and I was thinking to myself, like, you know, the fruity ones are probably going to win. And honestly, when we did enter the strain that we entered, the bio, we were kind of limited to what we had back from testing. We had a few strains that we would have loved to enter that we had just washed, and we saw it on the press, and as it was curing up, like, oh my God, this is so fire.
Right.
But, deadlines are deadlines, and when it comes down to, we have 1 week to pick out what flavor we have that we're going to enter, and that's kind of the other thing with the competitions that we've won. Up to this point, we haven't done anything specific for competitions. We've literally just pulled stock off the shelf. Been like, I think this one will win. Pull it off the shelf, and boom.
So this High Times Cup, it wasn't like you got a judge's kit. This was open to the public. You just got to go to a certain store, buy whatever product.
I'm
and
actually
then fill out the test or something.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a little weary on how it went because I didn't purchase a judge kit myself because that would have been a conflict of interest, like anyone. So we just kind of had to live vicariously of whoever got a judge kit. Like,
so
how does that look?
Judge kits.
They had judge kits, yeah. So
they had to go to like stores and you could.
Well, yeah, you'd have to buy the judge kit from like a retailer or whatever.
Okay,
like Nova was like the main retailer, I think, for them.
Yep.
But But yeah, I know a lot of people, they'll do a whole run specifically for a competition, like, pull certain micron, pull whatever, first wash, all that stuff. Like, yeah, we didn't do that. We literally
Kind of cheating.
Well, no, I wouldn't call it cheating. It's
Go
long
there with your best guys
for
and
me,
take care of business. That's
for
what it
me,
is.
if you're not going to enter something that's going to be available to the public, it's not necessarily cheating, but it's kind of like, okay, what was the point of that?
Like, so why not?
Well, yeah, but it's like, even then, if you're going to do a competition-specific batch, it should be available to the public, or it should be something replicatable, at least. Like, if you're going to do an 8-way blend of different strains, it's like, all right, if you don't know the ratios of those strains, and can you do it again? Like, let's say it comes in first place, and it's like, all right, you mixed 8 strains together.
I'm good.
Do it again.
Well,
Yeah, you think they do it, though, just because of advertising, right? Because if it's that good, they're going to be like, oh, what else they got?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no.
Hey, that stuff was so good, we ran out.
Yeah. It's definitely like, it's not like an invalid thing to do for sure. But the way that I've looked at it is like, if I won, or if I saw that somebody won a competition, I'd be interested in trying that product.
No, right.
And if you can't go out and get it after it's won, it's kind of, it kind of sucks. And honestly, I'd say that's where we fell short a little bit on this last competition is, High Times. I think the entry was back in October, I want to say. So, here we are, and, I think they announced it the end of January, mid-January. Months later, we're a commercial facility, like, we're wholesaling, we're moving product, like, and the big thing, the strain that we won for biodiesel is a slow veggier. Like, you can't take a lot of cuts from it. So we had a certain stock of what we had for clones to put in production, and right now our moms are behind. So, like, we won. We're like, all right, we didn't win. We placed. My bad. We placed third.
Yeah, don't get ahead of yourself.
And we didn't win for High Times. One, you can't do in High
You were in the
Times.
race, actually.
Yeah, I know. We placed.
Nowadays everybody wins, so you good.
Yeah. No, we placed.
It wasn't T-ball.
Yeah, no, it was a valid placement in my
Participation
You know what I
trophy.
think, too? That if you go to a lot of these different places like these dispensaries, I'm all for it because a lot of these guys have good strains of weed. I mean, there's a lot of bunk out there you're going to get for $5, $10, but the average person that smokes weed is going to buy the higher end stuff. And that's where the profit is in the market.
Yeah, the people that are going to drive your market are going to be the ones that are going to come back and buy the most, and also, post about your product. Like, that's the biggest thing. It's like social media is one of those things where it's tough in the cannabis market, especially in Massachusetts.
When everybody's doing it. But not everybody's doing it right. That's the thing.
Yeah, and like I said, the hardest thing is that, like, you're not really allowed to advertise, like, on social media. It's like, in a way, it's like you start posting and you end up getting shadow banned. Like, my personal Instagram, if you don't type it in, like, verbatim, like, with the underscores and all that, and I have, like, 4 underscores in my Instagram name. If you don't type it in with all that and you don't follow me, you won't find it.
Oh, we're going to be getting shut down then. It's
tough. It's tough.
We got no choice.
No.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
even
nothing
with all
new.
that, I'm still shadow banned, I'm saying. So, like,
Right.
it's kind of,
Don't worry. We'll be right there coming to a date, a show near you.
yeah. But, like, for Suncrafted specifically, like, I know, like, when Xavier over here tries to tag them on Instagram, like, when we're in the lab, he can't find them, and he has to type it in fully Suncrafted MA, and then it'll pop up. And it's like, if you just type in Suncrafted, it doesn't come up.
Yeah,
because we're a cannabis company that tries to do, promotions on social media, and they don't like that. So social media tries to push us to the back, and it's like, you're advertising to your followers at that point, which is good. Like, I feel like the people that follow you on, like, a cannabis, dispensary social media, like they're looking to see what's coming up next, and that's kind of how we're utilizing social media, is letting people know, like, hey, we got a drop of rosin coming on Friday. It's only 30 grams. Like today we dropped lemon sweets, really kind of low yielder, but really, really great, like super lemon haze type terps.
Oh, that's what you guys.
I got it right
didn't
here.
You guys press that when we were in the facility the other
We
day?
were pressing lemon sweets with cherry pie, which was
Right,
another
that's-
one that we were thinking about doing for a comp. But we wanted to press it and test it first before we actually decided to enter it. And we weren't sure if we were going to enter lemon sweets on its own or lemon cherry pie. And I've got the lemon sweets right here because we did a limited drop today. It was 30 grams, limit one per customer. We all grabbed one, but
yeah, the blend was nice. That's what you guys were pressing the other day.
Yeah, but this
Xavier was
one-
in there pressing.
where is it? I got to find it now.
Rick, imagine if you had this many
Here it is.
bottles to have a few drinks.
Oh my God.
Well, like I said, like you're
got a
seeing
booth
like
going on over
this
there.
is like the luxury setup, like this is like I can
This
sit
is a
down,
professional-
set it up.
I
Like,
don't, think
very
Ricky, I don't
professional.
think Ricky would drink if he had to do this much.
well,
shit.
you don't have to
Yeah,
though. Like
I
like this
gotta-
is my go-to. Like this
Too many
little
bottles over
this little
there.
Is
Carta.
that rechargeable?
Yeah, this is
many
rechargeable. This is you don't need a torch or anything for this. You just put your concentrate in here and hit a button, and it's
Looks
on.
like it'd be good for the boat.
This thing's good for anything. This thing is like on my hip at all time.
That thing
I bring
a
this thing
USB?
everywhere.
That's your go-to unit?
Oh yeah, typically when I'm on the go. When I'm at home though, and I can actually set up and like spread out a little bit. Obviously, I'd rather smoke off of quartz and hit off of an actual piece of glass. But honestly, getting this little attachment here was really nice. Like this thing rips really good.
Looks pretty futuristic, man.
Yeah, it rips great. Like it's probably one of the better e-rigs that I've had. Like I do like Puffco, like the Proxy. Like that thing is really convenient. Like I see myself walking around Boston with that shit in my pocket.
that
Like
thing
you
is
can literally
nice,
put that in your pocket and you don't got to worry about water or nothing. Like that is tight. Yeah, I do get down on that.
That's me. Like I'm old school. I used to just have a bag of weed and some papers.
28 of 30.
Oh yeah.
Limit 30.
Limited drop.
Yeah, limit 1 of 30.
I can't carry that much shit. Back in the day, weed was illegal, so you'd have to,
Oh, trust me,
Maybe
I know.
put it down,
I
can't pack
I
that
lived in
little
North
fucking
Carolina
thing
for
out.
a grip, so I know. Like, if you're, I was a pizza delivery guy in North Carolina, rolling around with joints in my pocket, and like, if you ever saw fucking blues, that shit
What does it smell
was
like?
gone. If you had to get rid of it, you got rid of it. But yeah, you weren't rolling around with a piece of glass. That's for damn sure.
You
But-
don't want nothing weighing you
No.
Imagine
No
that
evidence.
little- What does one of these go for?
The tier ones we sell for 50 as singles, and then like
$50.
yeah, but then-
how many grams does it take to make this much?
it depends. Like
Average.
that's a low yielder. Like that's like 30-ish grams of fresh frozen, which would be about
Over a quarter.
12
28?
grams. About like 10 grams of flour
Wow,
of
takes a
dry
lot.
flour. Yeah, so it's like you think about like, how much would 10 dry
That's
grams
how
of
much
flour
it has to
cost
really
you?
Sell for, because I mean, the packaging is this ceramic?
Oh, it's glass.
It's glass.
Glass jar.
How come they put them in glass? Is there a reason?
It's better. Well,
it looks cool and it's a good little.
it doesn't leach anything, like, people used to use silicone and stuff back in the day, but terpenes will actually degrade silicone,
No shit.
which is another reason why,
Is this
on the-
what a lot of the younger generation is doing today?
yeah, honestly, I mean, like, in my opinion,
Is this what it's going? Because I know this started out in California like 10 years ago.
yeah. Well, the thing about hash, like I told you, like, we sell grams for 50. Like in New York, they're $100 a gram for quality hash, at least. Like when we were out there, like we were paying $100 a
They
gram.
have stores in New York right now. It's legal.
Black market.
Well, kinda. I think they
On
have.
Fifth Avenue, they didn't have.
I
any
think they
stores,
have
you know
like
what I'm saying?
maybe 7 legal stores, but you can go into any bodega in New York and buy weed. You can go to any corner store and they're selling white runts in the bag from Cali. They're selling Jungle Boys. They're selling all the hype strains and Mylars. It's fucking crazy,
Yeah,
dude.
it's wild. It's like the
It's
Wild West
crazy,
down
dude.
there.
Like it is. Like there was a weed shop that we rolled up on, and the dude literally, like, there's no security, there's no ID check. You just stroll in, like, oh, I got deals, man. And it's just like, this is crazy,
Did you have
dude.
any
Like
good
it's like
weed?
it's all Cali packs. And honestly, though, there was a couple spots, or one spot specifically that we went to, like I said, where we found local rosin. Like, and they were a New York branded rosin company, Deadass Rosin. We tried their stuff, and I met the owner at one of these little events that he posted on. Like, it was a Japanese omakase, like, chef
good?
dinner. Dude, it was awesome. It was sick. The dude that owned the dispensary, called The Antidote down in downtown Soho. He put it on with Deadass, and me and X went, and that was a great time. 12-course meal paired with rosin and hash.
Okay.
It was awesome. It was so sick. Yeah.
Do you
Completely
think
lost my train of thought.
Is your
You blasted off.
I was literally about to take another dab too, and I'm like, fuck, I'm already forgetting what I'm talking about. But we're gonna do it, but it's fine.
All right. So you really picked up the pace in the cannabis space when your mom got sick and started making topicals.
Yeah, so that was kind of like the
Did you start making rosin too?
Yeah, I was already
based topical.
So I was doing like ethanol, like RSO, because I thought that was like the true, like, best way to do it, just based on, reading about, RSO, FICO, all that, whatever you want to call it. And the whole idea behind it was that it was getting like everything from the plant. Like you were stripping everything, like the chlorophyll, everything that would be beneficial potentially, you were getting from that. Where like with the rosin, I feel like it's a little bit, not too pure, obviously, but like, I almost wanted, for a topical in my instance, I wanted the fats, the lipids, like anything that would, help.
That you don't want.
Yeah, that you wouldn't want in rosin. Yeah, so like for me, like nowadays, like when I make anything, like I'm typically, I'm using rosin as like my base. Like if I'm making edibles, I use rosin. If I'm making, capsules or anything like that, I'll use rosin. Or sometimes I'll still use RSO. Like that's the other good thing about making rosin and hash and all that, is that one of the byproducts is RSO. If you utilize it properly and you save your rosin bags and ethanol them and do all that, then you can still make good medicine from a byproduct. And for us, at least at Suncrafted, what I'm trying to push for is, selling it to patients for really cheap. It's a byproduct. Like we're already making margins on the tier 1 and the tier 2 and all that. It's like in the food grade even. It's like the RSO should be, affordable for patients. And I think the owner really liked that sentiment. And like when I explained to him like how we're using it as a byproduct and it doesn't really carry like a crazy cost for us, I think they've been kind of leaning to it. And we're trying to roll that out now with figuring out like what it's going to look like cost wise and all that for patients. And
So you guys are going a little bit more heavier on the medical.
Yeah,
You guys are
yeah.
recreational and medical.
Yeah,
Located. What's the address?
It's a 477 Wareham Street in Middleborough,
Yeah,
Massachusetts.
yeah. You guys are set off the road over there, right?
Yeah, it's a big sign up in the front, and then you kind of go up the driveway a little bit to get there. But we got all the signs, pointing on the way, Highway 420, all that.
We harness the sun.
Yeah, sun power, all that. Yeah.
You talked early in the show that you said you wasn't a scientist, but I don't believe that. I feel like you're just missing the white robe.
Right.
I call bullshit on that. You're like, I'm no scientist, but guess what? You got me fooled because God damn it. Talking about shit I have no clue.
So you've been making rosin.
Atoms and all kind of bullshit.
Well, I mean, I
have
started
no
with
idea.
flower rosin, obviously, like anyone, like the hair straightener, pressing up the nugs. And, I was making some pretty banging flower rosin. Like, I'll even look back on it now. Oh, yeah. In the fucking,
Texas basement.
right in the closet, dude.
He
Yeah.
might be a mad scientist. He's in the basement.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Call bullshit. He's
Yeah,
a
hit the
scientist
button,
all day
the
long.
panel slides out. You're like, what's going on back here? Nah, but yeah, we were in the garage. Yeah, we were fucking doing it down there for sure. But I started doing like flower rosin, and I was getting really good returns like on some of the strains. Like that was like my first introduction of like why genetics are so important with any form of hash making. Where like, I bought this Jack Herer from my guy up here back in the day and tried, flower pressing it, and it was really poor. At least like, I mean, it's not even genetic at that point. It's pure quality of bud at that point too, which is like, you know what I mean? Like you could have shitty quality bud or shitty, whatever, and it presses out, and like you might get a shit ton of rosin, but it might be really trash.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you have to have both worlds in play there. But
yeah, and you guys got quite a genetic library down there at Suncrafted.
Yeah. My buddy Spencer down there, Viking Vines, he's been supplying us with all of our genetics. Tons of really amazing cuts, like our Super Boof, that all came from him. I'm sorry, not the biodiesel, that came from one of our other old cultivators.
Might be a little cold over there.
But when you guys are growing, when Spencer's growing, when you guys are growing for flower, when you walk into the flower room, when you're trying to choose which plants you're gonna wash, is there any things in the plant that you can see as it's hard, as it's
totally.
growing in flower?
Yeah,
that you
totally.
look forward to know, like, hey, this is gonna be a dumper, or like this is gonna taste really well, or this might be too greasy to work with.
Yeah, so typically, we look for, obviously, physical characteristics would be, big present resin heads. Like you can see, just like if you just look at the bud the right way, you can just see perfectly shaped resin, like big round resin heads. Like that's like what you're looking for. And then the other thing too is to carefully touch some of the bud. Obviously, don't manhandle it. Just carefully touch it lower with your gloves. Yeah, you don't manipulate what you're doing, but assess the resin. You want sandy resin, obviously. Like you want it to be, you don't want it to be like a liquid, greasy oil when you touch it. Like I've touched strains, flowers that you touch it and your gloves are covered in like it looks wet, and it's actually like the oil, like the resin, like you know what I mean, like from the bud. And that to me is immediately like, all right, if you're trying to extract this, do a hydrocarbon, like blast this with butane, like pull all the oil out of this. But what we're looking for is looking for that sand. Like if you touch it and it almost looks like you got like beach sand almost on your fingers, but then you really touch it and it turns into like sticky, like pull apart. Like that is the perfect resin.
What, gritty?
Yeah, you want it to be gritty, but then you want it to be able to melt once you start manipulating it, because you don't want it to be initially
Why is that?
So you want to be able to work with it.
Up?
Yeah, you want to be able to collect it. So during the collection process, if it's too greasy, it'll stick to the bags or it'll stick to your spoon, or you can lose some in the process if it's too greasy. Obviously, greasy hash is amazing. You want to find that happy medium of either being in a cold enough environment where you can handle the greasy resin, or if you're not and you have to work with what you got, you need to find the strains that are able to be manipulated in that environment. So for us, we're looking for more sandy, gritty resin. But the perfect world is it's gritty enough to be collected, but then once you really manipulate it, it's greasy enough, or once you see it on the press, or once you go to dab it as hash or whatever it is, you actually get that oil and that good melt from it. So it's kind of a happy medium that you're trying to find.
So you guys grow in greenhouses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these are outside, obviously.
Yeah.
How do you heat them in the winter?
So we have this biotherm that runs under all of the plants, and it basically just circulates hot water, and the ambient heat from that radiates up into the plants.
What, it circulates in the dirt?
No, so it's right below. So we have them on tables, right?
Oh,
and then
so
it's right
black
under the
piping?
tables. Yeah, it's right under the tables.
You have radiant heat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then honestly, like the greenhouses get really warm just as
Even
it
when
is.
it's really cold?
Yeah, like we went into the veg room, our new F4 Viking Vines veg room. It's going to be the sun snip room, as they're calling it. So like basically we're using the greenhouse to veg these plants and take cuttings from them, so that come outdoor season, outdoor growers can come to our store and buy clones from us directly that have been grown under the New England sun. They've been acclimated to the
That's a
sun,
good idea.
and they're not going to get really shocked once you put them outside.
I'll
It
be
might be a
coming by.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to have some good genetics.
One of these in the spring, like, the flower stores all open up. You guys would be out front selling plants.
Yeah, we're going to be like our own little nursery. We're actually partnering with a grow store. Forget off the top of my head. I feel like a jerk, honestly. I think it's Always Green.
Okay.
In Plymouth.
Okay.
I want to say.
That's the next level, though.
Yeah, and we're there, so they're going to be able to direct their customers to us. They're already greenhouse,
Right.
dudes anyways, like buying stuff in there.
Organic.
Exactly. And then, they'll be like, hey, you're buying some pots and some soil, like Suncrafted is selling clones. Right. So it's kind of a nice little thing, and they can get a discount by coming to us and mentioning that they found us there and all that. And it's good promotion for them, for us, and all that. So we're doing stuff like that.
They're gonna have like hundreds of people out front.
Yeah, no, we did it last year already, and it went really well. And last year was kind of like our.
Somebody can take home and put in their garden, and the thing grows into an enormous bush. What do you charge for these?
Between
plants?
$25 and $75.
That's
so
a
like
deal.
certain cultivars we're selling for $75. Like I think we did our runts and our wedding cake for $50.
It's already all feminized.
Yeah,
and
legit cuts. Like the wedding cake that we have is like the wedding cake that everyone has that's been passed around up in Maine. Like it's super fire. And like our papayas, Poochie's cut of papaya. Like we have some legit cuts that we're just running. And like certain cuts aren't going to be available to the public, obviously. Like, Spencer spent like thousands of dollars on some of these cuts. Like he just got permanent marker in.
Some of the cuts are just going to be directed to the commercial.
Yeah,
side.
there's certain stuff that's only gonna, at least for now. Like obviously, like certain things will be available once more people have it. Yeah, and like it's more available to the general commercial public and the general public in general.
Have you guys seen the effect of the price of weed going down over there?
I mean, yeah, definitely. Yeah, average price per pound.
That?
I mean, it was destined to happen. Like any of these markets, like you look at Colorado, Washington, all that type of stuff. Like I just said, I was just in Seattle, and they got $35 ounces of flower. Like all the storefronts, $35 ounces. Now that being said, they've got $50 eighths too. So it's not like if you don't grow quality, it's not going to sell. It's like quality in the end of the day will still sell in any market.
Like a craft beer.
Yeah, look at California. California is one of the most saturated markets, I'd say, and there's still $70 eighths on some of these shelves.
So is that how you guys are trying to stand out?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to be
growing,
sustainable.
greenhouse?
Like, sustainability is really our biggest thing, like growing in the greenhouses and like trying to keep our costs low so that we can end up bringing lower costs to the consumer. Like, our whole thing is like, we sell some of our bud that is super premium, and we try to like, take the best of the best buds, hand trim them and all that, put them into the bags. We try to get, $30 an eighth still. Like, it's still like, like a decent, eighth. Like, it's a good eighth. So it's like, I feel like $30 from a greenhouse eighth is like a pretty, premium price for a greenhouse flower. But our whole thing is like $15 eighths. Like, people come for our $15 eighths because they're like, wow, like it's decent, like good, tasty bud. Like the terps are in the threes. People are like, this is $15. Like, yeah, come get it.
Going back to keeping your costs down, I seen when we were walking through there the other day, you guys had no dehumidification system in there.
Yeah, so really we're relying on the environment, and we're utilizing the environment to the best of the ability. So like the wet walls and everything. So in the summertime when it's really warm, we have the wet walls to our advantage. So we utilize that. And then honestly, wintertime around here, it's so dry, you don't need dehus.
Right.
Like, especially right now when like it's like
Oh, definitely.
it's like we're like almost trying to bring moisture into our greenhouses right now. It's so dry. So that's not a problem. And then in the summertime, the way that these greenhouses work, you end up kind of like I said, right now we're using the heat as like ambient. It's like you end up burning the humidity out of the rooms with how hot the greenhouse is getting. So it's like you're using you're using the environment to your advantage at both times of the year. And obviously you're also fighting it at the same time. You're manipulating it, trying to play God when you're using a greenhouse like that. But it works out pretty great. Like, and I will say, like, the results, the sun-grown flower, like, is really tasty. Like, the terps are insane. The number...
I like the Bubba Fett. That's what I bought the other day, the Bubba Fett flower and the Super Boof rosin.
The rosin is the main thing. Like, the flower is great, but, like, I'm partial. I mainly smell concentrates and I make it, so obviously I'm partial to it. But
I'm more people coming in for rosin now.
We're seeing
flower.
it. Like, it's one of those things where, like, I look at the end of the day sheet and it's like, obviously flower will always be your number one seller across the board wherever you go in these markets. So flower is always number one, and then, concentrates is usually pretty low on the list. But lately it's been rising up the list of the best sold. And when you actually look at, like, because, you look at the list and it's based on a number of units sold, but then you look over at the actual net and it's like concentrates is number 2. It's like it might be 5th on the list, but it's number 2 of what's actually bringing in revenue because people are finding out about it.
So you gross profiting better on the rosin?
In my opinion, yeah. But like, we're selling rosin for like cheaper than anyone in the state right now. Like, I don't know where you can go get the quality rosin that we have for $40 a gram.
And you think that's going to change?
I mean, yeah, people are going to adapt. Like, people are going to be able to figure out how to grow for cheaper and produce for cheaper, just like we're doing. That's our whole thing, is like we want to be able to bring customers in that can, come buy our product. We don't want to be exclusive to people that are, I don't want to have to produce $100 gram of rosin and that be, you come in and you say, I'd love to smoke your rosin, but I can't afford it, so I'm going to smoke this lesser product that, is a lesser product in my opinion.
Like,
it's
fine.
like, it's cheaper,
what?
so I'm going to smoke this instead. And it's like, I'd rather be able to say, we're priced really competitively. Like, yeah, it might be a couple dollars more in some case, or in some cases the same price as a hydrocarbon extract.
Well, what's going to happen is in the industry, there's so many people in it. It's just like any other industry. It's already peaked. Now it's on its way down, and all these people, the investment groups, aren't making all this money. They're just going to go and just close the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're always going to have that person that wants the quality and wants it cheap, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, what they're pretty much saying is like, hey, I want your stuff, but I can't afford it.
Those are the two.
Yeah,
well,
that's
guess
what you
what?
hear a lot of the times as a hash maker. It's like, yeah, I'd love to, try your stuff, but I can't pay that much a gram.
Well,
and it's like, okay, well,
get a little
how
less.
do you do it? How do you make it better? And it's like, how do you make it more affordable? So,
or the person needs to go do a little side hustle so they can afford to smoke
get
the
your
good
money
shit.
right, dude. No. I mean, yeah,
Of course, yeah. It's like you can't, like, unfortunately, that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna go after quality, you You can't market to those people.
No, but at the end of the day, it's like I feel like quality shouldn't be something that's like an exclusive thing either, where it's like you shouldn't have to smoke something that's like, you know, it doesn't feel like it's good to consume. Like it's like if you're not, in my opinion personally, it's like if I'm not smoking something that's quality, it's not doesn't feel good to smoke it. You know?
But
Like,
unfortunately, if
like,
that's
I
all
wouldn't
you
wanna
if that's
drink
all you can
something if it
afford,
wasn't good. Well, yeah. End of the day, yeah. If you can't afford it, but like, which
Can't
for me,
afford it,
that's why
day
that's
job.
kind of why I got into it the way that I did. Like, I found rosin when it was $80-$90 a gram around here across the board, and like I could not afford that. I couldn't smoke that every day. I couldn't right now if that was the cost of this. I could not smoke this every day. So for me, like the way that I can is like I make it. Number one,
Right.
like I work for a company where I make it, so that's huge. Like if you want to fucking get rosin for cheap, work for a company and make it. I
We'll
mean,
work
like
for rosin.
you know what I mean? Like like with anything,
you gotta do what you gotta do.
yeah. Like it's like you know what I mean. But
Listen, I want to
End of
drive a
the day.
Lambo, but guess what? You know, I gotta do a little bit more
And
side
I
hustle.
think they just give them like a big bowl of what rosin.
no, I
gives
wish
you-
it's not like that. They do hook up employees, obviously.
No,
They
that's
get
nice.
employee discounts are amazing. Like you can't go wrong.
They're good people
But-
to work for. down
Yeah,
there,
definitely, yeah,
Suncrafted.
yeah.
Tim McNamara.
Tim, yeah, Paul, yeah, they're
Paul.
great guys. Yeah, honestly, like they do. I do feel like once we're all in a position that they can take care of us, like they're truly going to take care of everyone that has built this place out. Because it's been a long time coming for them, and I do feel bad because like when I came on 2 years ago, they were still 6 years in. Like they had not even been able to really break. Well, they had broken ground obviously as far as production, but they had not popped a single
They've
seed.
been there for 6 years.
Yeah, they had a couple. They had two outdoor grows before I got there, but like I said, the first one was like they got approved in August. Like, all right, August, you can grow.
Yeah, great
So they,
time to start, huh?
so obviously they had you know the window where they could bring clones in. So they had some people that were like vegging at their house. So they had some people that had you know established plants that they were allowed to bring in at the time, like with the window period or whatever that it was. But yeah, they were kind of screwed as far as that first year went, and then the second year.
Open?
So I started 20. What year is it? 24. So 22 I started, and they had started in 2020 was the first seeds that
But
they popped.
They couldn't do,
But they had been
that
like,
was August.
but they had been building the facility out I think 4 years prior to that.
Yep.
So when I started, it had been 6 years, and now we're almost at 8 years.
So they're in a long run of this.
Yeah. But it's been 1 year of sales. So we were able to start sales in recreational sales for December of last year.
That helped them a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
the medical was the first. I think it was October of 23. No, 22. October of 22 is when they got their med license. And then December of 22, they got their rec. So it's been a little over a year now.
Yeah. So they're just getting into the retail space.
Yeah.
You've been at Suncrafted a little while. We actually do product test, the potency test, and the Bubba Fett. It was on point. The flour it was 28.8 on the package. It tested out at 28.8 on the machine. The rosin I tested out was the Las Vegas Bubba Kush. And that stuff tasted pretty on point, and that tested out as well too. So that's why we had you on the show. What do you think some of these places, because we've been testing places, we've tested like 10 different brands. Only 2 places have tested out within the state guidelines for testing. What are you guys doing? Like, is it more like you guys are a lot of people who's been in the industry, who take pride in the industry? Or
Yeah. I mean,
I'm just trying to figure out how so many places are failing and out of the state guidelines.
And
It's
one
because-
quick question
What are you
on
guys
to
doing
piggyback off of his is like, how long does it take when you guys extract it to put it on the shelf?
so that's two good questions. So I can answer yours first.
Yeah.
Quickly by saying most of these places that send out stuff for testing, they're going to pick the very, very best buds, the very, very top of everything. They're going to send you purely tops for testing and trim it up real nice. And some of them might even pull the moisture out of that bud so that the content of the cannabinoids are higher of the actual, like, you know, content of the flower because the moisture's down now. So something that could be normally a 26er, take all the moisture out of it and take just tops and make it all perfect. It's going to be probably in the 30s now. But really, the product that you're going to be getting is going to have a higher moisture content. Is going to be a whole spectrum of the plant. You're going to have tops, lowers, smalls, bigs. Like, it's not going to be a uniform thing of tops, typically. And Yeah, like you're gonna get completely different variations of potency throughout the whole plant. So if you're just testing tops alone without even adjusting the moisture content, and then if you got a bag and it was all the lowers of the plant or a majority lowers, or if you just happen to pick one bud of lowers to put in the tester, like
So they're keeping their unicorn set aside for testing?
a lot of people do. Yeah, a lot of people do.
Does somebody from the state actually come into the facility and grab the sample, or do you guys pick your sample?
No,
and
so
send it out?
you would pick it, set it, do it all that, set it up in the system, and then send it out, have a transporter come pick it up, and then they bring it to the testing lab and then they test it. But again, like I said, for us, like we kind of just go into the bag and grab buds, and we try to get an actual mix of what you would get in an eighth.
Just
so that
grab random.
so the accuracy is a little bit like, you know what I mean? Like because when they do the testing, it's like they kind of mix everything together for the most part. Like they're gonna take, the best bud, the small bud, they're gonna kind of, they grind it up for the testing purposes. So everything kind of gets ground up. So, if you have an even mix of what would be found on your plant in your test, like an accurate representation in your testing result, then you should be pretty accurate, more or less. Like you actually might have some buds in there that might test higher because like you know what I mean? It might be on the higher end of the spectrum, and then there might be some that might be slightly lower, not like crazy, like you were saying, like you'd see discrepancies of like, 4, 5, 6, 7% of like, flour that's kind of significant, but like, concentrate specifically, that's another whole thing. Like for us, like we typically, to piggyback on what you were saying, like, so if we press a rosin, for us, testing comes on Thursdays. Every Thursday's testing day for us. So we try to get everything prepped before Thursday so that if, we press a rosin, let's say on a Wednesday, pull a sample out of it as a fresh press, because obviously we don't force cure anything, so we let it sit at a normal temperature, at a room temp, cure naturally. So typically, without even having testing, if we weren't releasing it as a fresh press, we would still probably let our product sit for a week or two just to let it cure. But that kind of works out for us because typically testing is about a week or so turnaround time.
Okay.
So if I press something on Wednesday, it could go out the next Thursday. The quickest I've seen is back on Monday.
So
and then you can get it right out if you need to. And
it gives it a time to settle and get to its actual number, what the consumer would get by the time they get it.
Yeah, and then sometimes, rosin and everything is usually fairly standard. Like you're not, obviously you try to homogenize the jar once it's cured, like you mix it all up so you have a nice even mixture. But sometimes, like if you were trying to get the testing out quick, like, you mix your bags together in the jar, but as a fresh press, you might pull some out, and that one area that you might pull might be a little more concentrated than the other, which is why we try to get it to the form that it's going to be before it goes out for testing.
For more accuracy.
Yeah.
So you guys are ensuring more accuracy.
Yeah, we're trying to do our due diligence at least. Right. Like, obviously testing is kind of bullshit in general. Like, I don't trust test results as far as anything goes. Like, obviously, if you're doing your due diligence, you can look at test results and gain metrics from them. Like for us, that's why I'm like really impressed with like our terpene content in our flour and our rosin.
Right.
We posted our terps content on our rosin on our first one that broke 10. We had our mountaintop mint.
Yeah.
It broke 10.7 on total terpenes, and we posted it on Reddit, and somebody commented like, "Tell me you fake your test results without telling me you fake your test results." And I just laughed because I'm like, that's kind of funny, dude. It's like we don't. And like the fact that you think that is just like.
Did you post your test results?
Yeah, we posted like the terp result or whatever, and it was like 10.7 with all the different numbers and stuff. But people were like, "You must add terps," and I'm just like, "No, that's cold cure rosin, dude. We didn't do nothing funky. We had apple fritter that almost tested at 13.
No shit.
Or it might have been. It was either 13. I think it might have been 13.2.
No, you guys are accurate.
I believe.
That's why
super high.
That's why we asked you to come on the show, because you guys got integrity. So it's completely at random due to whoever's picking the buds to send out for testing.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah.
you guys are trying to ensure the consumer gets.
Yeah, and like try to pull a bud from here, bud from here, bud from here, and like try to get a mix of different sizes and all that. So like I said, like if you were to get an eighth, obviously if you just pick the very best buds out of that package and sent it out for testing, the eighth that you're going to get is going to be a mix. They're not going to put the very best buds in every, you know what I mean? It's going to be a mix.
You're not growing a unicorn in the corner of the room and
but
this nice plant and saving that for testing to send
No,
out
but that could be something that
completely and get a higher test. Because literally 10% of the 10 of the brands, only 2 of them tested out, and you guys were one of them. And
it's not shocking.
I applaud you guys for that. giving the people what they want.
Yeah,
so
dude.
They can have accurate numbers at the point of sale. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
But maybe some of the people who don't know how hash is made, what's like you guys' process? Like after the plant's done flowering, like what's, because you say you cold cure it, like how do you, like maybe you can give the people like step by step what goes on, like
yeah, totally. Yeah, I'll
getting the
break it down a
flour
little
into the
bit. Yeah.
freezer, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
'Cause
obviously,
Ricky has no idea what the fuck we're talking
Oh no!
about. So.
Listen, I saw the video and the stuff that you guys were pulling out. I was ready to put that shit on pancakes. It looked really good.
yeah.
Like, I was
like to
like,
see
what is this,
that.
like maple syrup or something?
Yeah,
It
fresh
looked
off the
real
press,
good.
yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
Ricky, you be smoked.
Oh man, I make good pancakes. I was ready to throw that shit on there.
Yeah. So like we start with fresh frozen buds. So like obviously we buck it down, like we clean it up as best as we can. We only want to leave like sugar leaf and stuff like that on there. And
When you're harvesting it.
yeah, when you're harvesting it. And then we throw it in our wash vessel with our ice and our water.
What do you put it in a freezer?
Yeah, you freeze the bud, you harvest it, you freeze it, you get it frozen. Like you can wash it immediately after it's frozen, but like, for us, like same thing with test results and all that. It's like typically a week or so after you harvest it, you can process it, or 4 to 5 days in the fastest end. But yeah, you put it in the vessel. We rock the low temp plate gear.
Yeah, you seen the osprey?
Yep. So we agitate it with the ice and the water, and it pulls all the resin off the bud. Like if you're ever looking at bud, like all like the resin, the frostiness of the bud, like all that gets pulled off of it in the ice water extraction. We separate the different grades of the hash. Like we isolate, we pull out the contaminants, we isolate the food grades, and then we pick the very best grade of the resin.
going
Like
down.
yeah. Like you find the perfect window though, because it's like you go too far, and then you're gonna get into like really small stuff
And then
that's
you
like
go too
back into
much, you
contaminant.
lost.
Yeah, because it's like you're gonna like when you're processing it, like you're cleaning up the hash, like you're spraying it out and everything, and you're trying to like make sure that like whatever, like once you get to that fine window, it's like panning for gold almost. It's like you're like trying to find that, like you want to get all the crap out, but like you want to like sift it out at the top, sift it out at the bottom, just like get that like fine window of like the best resin that you can pull. And that's kind of what we do like with each strain, like what I was talking about before.
Yeah.
But like certain size bags, like certain size heads versus for all the different cultivars and all that. So
If you don't freeze it right away, does that degrade the hash? Or
well,
how does
honestly,
that
like
work?
that's
Or is
a
that just for working purposes. Hurry up, freeze it.
So it's for mainly for the collection, for like the head to be able to be broken off from the trichome easier, because some people I've never actually done it, but I've heard of people not even freezing it and using like a refrigerator and like literally just keeping it like almost like a fresh vegetable. Like people are like, well, fresh frozen, like with a vegetable, it's like, is it still fresh once you freeze it? So like some people will put it in a fridge and like keep it like a veggie, like a true vegetable, and then it'll be fresh at that point, not frozen, but it'll just be like fresh cannabis at that point that's been refrigerated. I personally never done it. I don't know what the results would be like, but I've heard people talk about it. I don't even know, like I've never even seen what the results of it would be. That's just like a weird thing that I've heard people talk about, and like I don't know everything about hash. I feel like I learn something new every day.
Right.
So it's kind of nice. Like, I've heard that. I've been meaning to experiment with it, but I haven't really had access to a big enough freezer or fridge space I could, put enough fresh frozen in there that it would make sense to do a little test of it or whatever. But
If you're ever
Have
leaning
you guys
into,
had like the same team for a little while in there? Like
yeah,
because
the
you
lab,
guys-
yeah, definitely.
You guys came in first and third at NECAN like a year and a half ago. Then you guys had the Harvest Cup. You guys placed in too.
Yep.
And then now the High Times Cup. You guys got third in.
Oh, Harvest Cup. Harvest Cup. We did not place.
Oh,
in.
you didn't.
No, we entered.
Okay.
We were in.
Okay.
We were in Harvest Cup, but we didn't place in Harvest. But yeah, it was so far. We have
Participation.
3. Yeah, right. Yeah, we have three awards right now.
Well-
2/3 and a first.
Okay.
But
Just
yeah,
2 events.
so quick question.
from
back
2
to,
events. Yeah.
Okay.
Quick question. Back to the freezing and the fridge. At the end of the day, you're looking for the results, right? It's almost like cooking, right? You brought up vegetables, so when you cook your favorite dish, whether it's frozen or refrigerated, at the end of the day, it's the results.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Of course.
can somebody even taste the difference?
It's like
Sounds
you're
like
splitting
weed
hairs
whack
with
in
a
the
lot of
jungle.
things,
Yeah,
like with
that's what I'm
anything.
saying,
It's like
right?
it really would take like, and that comes down to like the
5-0.
it comes down to like the different tiers, like what I was talking about, how we have like tier 1 and tier 2
Yeah,
and
yeah.
tier 3 and all that. Like if I were to blind taste test you, like if I were to not decarb my tier 3, so like my tier 3 is food grade, and we sell that as syringes in the store. So like it's like fully activated decarbed rosin where you can take it home, dose your own edibles, and it's like the most cost-effective way to make edibles and eat cannabis in my opinion. And it's the best way because it's strain-specific rosin, so you can't go wrong with it. And like what I was just about to say, if I were to not decarb that tier 3 rosin and I were to do a blind taste test of the tier 3, the food grade, the tier 2, the full spec, and then the tier 1, the first wash micron specific, I would be very impressed if you could tell me which one was the best one without looking at it. Because visually, like typically the tier 1 is going to look a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
But I say typically because like I said, like our strawberry candy that we wash, like you could put 25, you could put the full spec next to the food grade, next to the tier 1, it's really, really hard to tell the difference, especially smelling it even. Like I will say the food grade, if you've been smelling, if you know what to smell for, like it smells a little bit more, like a little bit greener in a way where, we beat it up when we're trying to pull the food grade at the end because, it just ends up going to edibles and stuff like that. But,
So how long's D and X been working with you? I couldn't pronounce the guy's name right. I fucking
Domain and Xavier, yeah.
Domain?
Yeah, Domain and Xavier.
Okay, I couldn't hear the fucking washroom was too loud.
Yeah. I know, he's fucking bumping his music.
It deaf as it is.
Right,
Forget
right.
that.
Yeah. D's been in the company longer than me, actually. He's been there for like 3 years now.
Seemed like you guys were moving and shaking, like you guys.
Oh yeah,
were handling business in
So like I
there.
said, I knew Xavier before I went to Suncrafted. He was working in the lab with me at the place that we were at before.
Okay.
And we were doing CO2 extraction and ethanol extraction and solventless.
stuff. Oh,
Yeah, we were doing some solventless too.
yeah.
Yeah, that's where I got my feet wet at the other spot. I don't want to name it just for reasons or whatever, but if you know, then you know. But yeah, this one guy, my buddy Ryan at that spot taught me a lot about pretty much everything that I like physically got, like physical hands-on knowledge was from him by being able to do the working that we did there and then have him to be able to give me pointers and let me make mistakes and let me learn from mistakes. And that was kind of the biggest thing is that, but while also learning with certain mistakes, he taught me so much stuff that allowed me to not make huge mistakes that would be like detrimental and like actual like losses. Like when I decided to freeze my first crop, I was only growing like 2 or 3 plants in my backyard and only one like full size, like decent sized plant, and I'd been taking care of it all year in my spare time, and after work and all that, and I've been really taking care of it, and I was really happy with how it looked. And then I was just getting into like maybe I should be freezing my crop and washing it, because it's actually funny because like I knew Adam from Mission Hill Melts. My buddy was good friends with him, and I had been buying hash from him for a bit, and I knew he processed stuff, so I was like, hey, I got this plant like in my backyard, like could you wash it for me? And he kind of laughed, and he was like, if you're not bringing me 10,000 wet grams, like I don't really have the time. At the time I was kind of offended. I'm like, oh, that's kind of a okay. And then I basically was like, oh, maybe I should just figure out how to do it myself then. And then I remember like my buddy told him that I was thinking about doing it, and he basically was like, oh, don't even bother, like you're gonna mess it up. And that lit a fire under my ass. I'm like, all right, I gotta figure it out now. Like I can totally do this. And then froze my plant. I'm like, all right, I'm committing to it. Chopped it down, froze it. And then I remember like putting it in the water for the first time, and it felt so sacrilegious. I was like, oh my God, I just grew this plant all year and I'm putting it in the water. Oh my God, this better fucking work. It was like, cause I was doing BHO and stuff. Like I know that worked. I'm like, I could dry this and
So what's the
blast
process
it.
of
Like,
washing a plant? Like what
so
do you
it's
mean
literally
washing it?
like you're taking the fresh frozen bud, washing it, like paddling it, agitating it with ice and water, and that agitation is what's pulling the trichomes off of the bud, and then you're collecting those trichomes.
What the hell's a trichome?
So it's the resin.
Pretty much.
Alright.
So like when you look at like the resin head, like if you look at the shape of a resin, it's like the stalk, and then it's got the big bulbous head at the end of it.
Yeah.
That's your trichome head. So that's like what you're really trying to collect. But obviously that little stalk also has resin in it too, so you end up collecting that like in your lower grades. And like so that's like kind of the difference, where it's like if you look at the whole structure, your best part of that is going to be the head of it, and then the rest of it is going to fall in other ranges other than the prime one for the most part. But you can still collect it, but that's kind of like the distinction of like what's better in that point.
Steel on the walls and all that.
Oh yeah.
But you know what's funny? It's good to grab where people started from, and now the product that you guys are fucking putting out.
Yeah.
You hear these stories, and you know, credit to you. Credit to you,
what's the
because
bomb?
God knows I don't understand how the fuck
Can
you
put the
learn this
bomb
shit.
sound in here?
Because I'm on the outside. I don't smoke weed. I smoke cigars, drink a little whiskey, some bourbon, and you know what? Like, credit to you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, the place was top notch.
really is.
Anybody out there looking for fire rosin, nice bud, sun grown?
We can't do anything without the cultivation team, bro.
Yeah.
We're nothing without
Sam
the flower.
and Spencer.
That's where it starts. Yeah.
Right?
We can't make fire rosin without fire flower.
They ran a tech ship over there. Everything was clean. The plants were beautiful. No purple, no new lockout. Stuff was
Yeah,
on
healthy
point.
stems.
Aces.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You guys test out all right. So you guys got integrity. That's like the biggest name in the business right now, as far as I'm concerned. With so many places opening, if you're not being honest to your consumer, who are you going to be honest
Yeah,
to?
definitely.
I thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, man. I appreciate
Amen.
it.
Again, 477
And-
Wareham Street, Middleborough, Mass. Suncrafted Cannabis.
They'll get you baked over there.
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate it, guys.
Amen.
Wake up in the morning, got a bag on my schedule. Niggas talking, bitches talking, they is not on my level. Check the time, wrist, rolly, rose gold on the bezel. Grab my keys and get my cell and hit the door with a shovel. It's time to get it out the mud, out the mud, out the mud, out the mud.